Hello, everyone. My name is Neil Patel, and today we're going to be talking about the great Google reset, how to win in the new world of AI. This presentation is focused on both organic and paid media because in this new world, Google is changing both. So my name is Neil Patel. I'm the co-founder of NP Digital. Today, I have the lucky privilege of having Ronnie and Ryan, who are both on our Canada team, to be here, and they're going to be doing the webinar with me. Ronnie, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself, and then Ryan, you can do the same?
Yeah, looking forward to being back with you on the webinar. Going to be jumping into a lot of the Google changes that are coming both on the organic and the paid side. Looking forward to diving in. Been around 20 years in marketing and looking forward to jumping in. Ryan.
Yeah, I feel like I've worked with Ronnie for a long time. I think I've been with Ronnie for 10 years of those 20 years, so it's good. Yeah, I head up strategy for NP Digital Canada, so super excited to be on the call today.
So at NP Digital, we're a global agency. You guys have seen these slides before if you've attended our webinars previously. The reason why we like showing them is we have clients from all over the world. We see tons of data, and we're testing and experimenting quite a bit. So today, when we talk about the Great Google Reset, a lot of this is from our experience, and we have data to present that shows you how you need to adapt. Now, a quick side note before we get started. We actually found a way to get into AI overviews much quicker. We tested it out with a client and they got results within 24 hours. If you need help getting in the AI overviews faster, scan that QR code, go to npdigital.com and we can set up a call, or you can, as I mentioned, just go to npdigital.com. So now let's talk about the Great Reset because it's real, right? And you're already starting to see some of it. So let's dive in. Well, first off, search has fundamentally changed. If you look at AI overviews, it's default and call it, majority of the countries that Google's in. Some of them, like France, the last I checked, it is not live yet, but there's, laws and regulations, but they're working on it, so eventually they'll come out there. Users are getting answers before even clicking to websites, and they don't necessarily need to click to websites for a lot of the queries that they're typing in. It's changing not only how businesses are adjusting their SEO and content strategy, but it's also changed how users are using and typing in queries on Google. We're noticing a trend where users are typing in much longer queries than they ever did before, and it's becoming more and more standard because they're getting answers to those long queries. Because traditionally, the way Google search worked is you did a search, they show you links. Now they will crawl all those links, take pieces of answers from all of them, and then compile what is the best result and then show you that in an AI overview. Or also quote unquote AI mode these days too. So search, if you look at traditional versus AI powered, I just covered a little bit about this. Traditional, you type in a query, get results, you click. Now you type in a query, they look at all the results, they figure out the context of your query, what you're looking for, they try to pull it from different web pages, and then they answer it right away. AI mode that Google announced is a version of that, but instead of blue links, it's more like ChatGPT, where it just gives you the answer and then you can keep prompting back and forth versus a traditional search interface. And the impact is real. You can see it in click-through rates, right? We're seeing a decrease in click-through rates across all positions because of AI overviews. But Sundar, the CEO of Google, he actually said something that was interesting during Google's I/O event. In our biggest markets like the US and India, AI overviews are driving over 10% growth in the types of queries that show them. And this growth increases over time. To give you a perspective, ChatGPT gets roughly 1 billion queries a day based on the data that we found on the internet. Google, based on the data that they release, gets roughly 13.7 billion queries a day. Okay? Majority of them, or a lot of them, have AI overviews. 10% growth is quite a bit. You don't have to do hair today, baby. And this isn't just another update, it's here to stay. When you look at most Google algorithm updates, and they do roughly 9 to 10 plus a day, you don't need sunscreen today. Sorry about that, everyone. And when you look at most Google updates, they're behind the scenes, and they do roughly 9 to 10 a day. Most of them aren't major. The major ones are announcing. But now they've just changed the whole interface on you, from AI overviews to AI mode. What you're seeing, even how ads are being displayed, it's all changing. And AI is writing the rules of discovery as well, right? Search is becoming more, not about a keyword, but more about the context. Like, what are you actually looking for based on what you're typing? People are looking for answers, specific answers, and they're typing in very detailed, longer queries because they're able to get the responses to those longer queries. And I'll show you some satisfaction scores in a bit. And that means that your content, it's not just optimizing for rankings, it's optimizing, you need to optimize creating content that helps people find the answer that they're looking for and get the citations, because getting your brand out there, and we're seeing that drive quite a bit of revenue. So the SERP's changing drastically, as you can see in this. Whether it's navigational, informational, transactional, you can see how many organic listings are popping up now versus paid versus AI overviews, zero-click content. And, you'll see more AI overview and AI-related content showcasing and showing up over time. We've already seen the results increase drastically over time, and you'll see that going forward. The old way to search, 10 links, short keywords that people are typing in. People go to your website a portion of the time. New way, longer queries. You get summaries, multimedia. You also get blue links. There was multimedia in the old search too, but then now they're inking more and more deals with some of these social platforms for more of that data. People are staying on search results pages longer. They're still going over to websites, just not as high of a percentage. But that what counteracts some of this is we're seeing more people search on Google, which is making up for some of the lower click-through rates. And when you think about traffic, we looked at B2B and B2C sites. We did a survey, and we also looked at their data. What was interesting is less traffic doesn't necessarily mean less sales. The sales that are going up or down, some of it could be seasonality or other external factors that you can't control. But what we're seeing is uh, getting cited in the AI overviews is driving revenue, and the AI traffic from like AI mode, ChatGPT, etc., is converting at a much higher percent, which makes up for traffic downfall because people are staying on platform to do a lot of research versus going over to your website and doing research. So compared to traditional search, the conversion rate is actually much higher, but you get less traffic. So all in all, it's working out. You just got to make sure you're there in AI mode or AI overviews or whatever users are using. And before I hand it off to Ronnie, I want you to look at this chart. From June 2024 to February 2025, not even 1 year, look how much more people are satisfied with the answers that are getting from Google's AI. It doesn't matter if it's AI overviews or AI mode, a lot of it's the same technology that they're pulling from. People are becoming very satisfied with Google's responses, and this is in a short period of time. Imagine what's going to happen within the next 12 months.
And so far we've talked about what's happening in the search landscape, and I think to the user there's just one search, and I know as us marketers we like to dive in, but let's shift gears a bit. The next section here we're going to talk about all the changes that Google's rolling out. Neil talked a little bit about their IO, and they've been busy between GML and new fronts. We know it's the season. They've announced a wave of new products, so we want to jump in and kind of walk you through what we think are the key ones. One of the biggest shifts is how Google's evaluating success. So it's, you've heard this likely already, but it's just not about keywords anymore. It's really about outcomes. AI is ranking based on whether your content actually helps users complete a task, not just start one. So things like engagement, satisfaction signals, and reducing follow-up queries are crucial. And for me, the way that I kind of break this down, there's a fundamental shift that's happening. It goes from how do I rank to how do I become the trusted source. And on the ad side, Google is adding in ads to the overviews, but making a real clear push. Ads should feel like part of the experience. So we're seeing AI overview ads that match the tone, format, and context of organic results. And if you look at the chart in the middle, I think it says a lot about how Google's personalizing search results. It's not about keywords, it's who is searching, it's where they are, what time it is, what they've clicked on before, and that behavior is really, shaping what shows up, and that includes ads now. Here's a really good example of how Google's using AI to streamline planning. So DV360, which is an enterprise level tool where you can buy ads through Google. It offers AI curated private marketplaces. This is big, which it means that media teams don't have to manually build deal IDs anymore. So these packages are really goal based. So whether you're optimizing for reach or for ROAS or for brand lift, they span YouTube, display, CTV. It's faster, smarter, and built for scale. So let's give an example here. You can say, I don't know, I want to drive upper funnel awareness for back to school shoppers. And DV360 is automatically going to generate a media package that pulls in the best performing inventory, whether that's CTV, YouTube, and retail heavy placements, right? So that's all curated around that goal. No manual setup required. Pretty big stuff. This one's a big deal. Google is now letting us tap into retail media audiences on YouTube and CTV. I believe it just rolled out in the US. I don't know that it's gone to the rest of the markets yet. That means you can combine high intent shopper data from places like Walmart or Instacart with premium video placements. So another example could be you can target recent grocery buyers with a YouTube ad during their favorite cooking show, and then you can follow up with a PMAX campaign. So it's full funnel performance meets, high impact storytelling, something that, we've never really had access to at this scale, also very significant. So as third-party cookies fade out, and that's interesting. We wouldn't have had that conversation maybe 5 years ago. Google's doubling down on first-party data, right? And PAIR, PAIR is a major part of that. It connects publishers and advertiser data in a really privacy-safe way. So it allows you to target known audiences across Gmail, Chrome, search, and shopping. And to make this work, you need clean CRM integrations. You need proper tagging and clear user consent. If you have that, the brands that are winning are the ones who've invested in their first-party data infrastructure. And this is really the new foundation of ad targeting. I think we moved past whether cookies are going to be there and moving more into this direction. We could lay that to rest and start getting, into the campaigns and first-party data. Google's really bringing predictive intelligence front and center with Gemini 2.5. I mean, what does that mean for us? I think just essentially comes down to me. It's smarter forecasting. So you're getting, automated budget recommendations. You're getting trend detection in real time, and then even alerts for performance anomalies. And it's all being powered by AI. So instead of asking what went wrong last week, you can kind of start asking what should I shift today to stay ahead? And I think that's a really huge leap forward in campaign control. This is Google's big move into keyword list targeting, which I talked about earlier. They're branding it as AI Max campaigns, use AI to find and convert users. That's what they do. I think without relying on traditional match types, this is, big. It's especially powerful for B2C, lead gen, service-based businesses that are very search heavy. So for example, if you're a home services brand, AI Max can reach high intent users even if they're not typing your exact keywords. Powerful. And that's because it understands context and intent, and then it works really seamlessly with existing Performance Max and Gemini powered creative. So another big one. This is where branding and performance kind of finally collide. Google's now enabling shoppable formats directly in YouTube Shorts and on CTV. That means viewers can, scan a QR code, they can click to shop, they can even like send products to their phone, all without leaving the experience. So think about it. Your product feed connects straight into high attention formats, and you can run a branded video in Shorts and immediately drive purchase intent with PMAX or demand gen campaigns. So it's performance marketing inside what used to be really brand only spaces. So Performance Max just got a major upgrade with the Gemini now built in, powering creative rotation, bidding, audience signals, really with more intelligence behind the scenes. So I like to bring it back to examples. Let's say you're running a retail campaign with multiple product lines. Gemini can test which creative is going to resonate by audience segment, automatically prioritizing what's working across search, YouTube, and shopping. Let's be clear here. I mean, we're not handing over the keys. This isn't about full automation. To me, it's really about automating the busy work so that, we can focus on the higher level strategy. One of the biggest, critiques of Performance Max, and I know Ryan can attest to this, and we have had a lot of conversations, is it's a black box, right? But it looks like, and we'll have to see, that Google's opening it up a bit. And so we now get channel level reporting, search terms insights, and even a prospecting only mode. So you can kind of finally see what's actually driving performance. And whether it's YouTube, whether it's search or display, I still think there's a lot more to do here, whether it's running scripts to see across what placements on YouTube, search, or display. But it is a good step forward. And I think fine-tuning our strategy based on this report is something everybody should be tapping into. Whether it's agencies or performance teams, I think this is a much needed step toward visibility and control.
And hopefully they give more transparency over time, but I think it's a great direction. I also think they didn't have a choice because so many of us marketers were complaining that there wasn't enough transparency and it was too much of a black box. And they were just like, yeah, always they didn't say always, but they're like, it converts better. And we've done so many tests. Humans combined with PMAX did better than just PMAX alone because it was a black box, and a lot of times it wasn't optimizing for your profitability.
Absolutely, and it's a great place to go look at this and start diving into the data right away now that they've opened that up. And then, shopping isn't just happening on product pages anymore. It's happening inside of Google. Whether it's AI try-ons to 3D product views, Google's really turning search into a storefront, and that means your visuals, angles, accuracy, even color variants, they directly impact discoverability and conversions. And this is the new front door for e-commerce. And if your feed or your creative isn't optimized for it, you're invisible where it matters.
I also believe when it comes to like virtual try-ons, Google's going to partner with retail companies in the future, and they're going to have actual real-size kiosk. I know we photoshopped this, and it's going to end up being where straight up it just looks at you from a camera, has you turn around 360, maps your body, and then it has you swipe towards all the inventory, and it matches the size and shows you what you look like, and then you select it, and then boom, you got your package there for you at a retail store where it's more of like a digital combined with the in-person experience. So you don't have to walk around everywhere within a store.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is like brands before were like racing to build their own stuff, and it was barely used. Whether it was like glasses or makeup that was sort of being used the most, and then they were spending so much money. And I think now you're kind of seeing that, Google's going to take the lead, but it's going to not be something you can control. It's going to be earlier on in the process, and it's going to be a lot more democratized and accessible. So then you can focus on, like I was mentioning, like your angles or your color variants, so that you can actually better use the tools that they're given. So it might like level the playing field. Hopefully there'll be more adoption to it, but I think it's a good first step. I don't know that I use it to try on jeans, but I think we'll start seeing our use cases go, and I think the brands don't control it as much. So this chart makes two things clear to me. I think the first is AI overviews are now the default in over 200 countries, which Neil talked about. that shift happened fast. It feels like we were just talking about when it was going to, launch here in Canada or in other countries. That was really fast. I think the second, and this is really important, is the frequency of AI overviews depends on the type of query. So you'll see higher AI overview coverage in more complex or sensitive topics right now. So things like, and Neil has a lot of charts that show this, and we've been publishing it, but things like finance, healthcare, and how-to content, just because of the nature of the way you're looking at it. So if you're in one of those categories and you're not showing up in these overviews, you're not just missing clicks, you're missing on the first impression entirely. We're now entering the era of AI agents. Every conference you go to, I know it's a really big buzzword, but they're becoming the interface, right? Not just a feature. And tools like Gemini can already handle multi-step tasks, right? They can compare products, they can check delivery options, and even complete purchases. And it's true, this is just the start. Some believe we're heading to world, and I do too, but we'll see. We're heading toward a world where these agents will just talk to each other. Your shopping agent, your calendar agent, even your business tools collaborating to complete goals on your behalf. So the real question becomes, how do you position your brand, not just to rank, but to be recommended by these agents as part of that ecosystem that is being built right now? We're in the early adoption phase. Now, this slide is showing, two key things also. First, look at the graph. AI overview updates are accelerating. Look at the blue in 2024. We're not in a test and tweak phase anymore. Google is rapidly iterating on how these overviews are generated and ranked. The second, look at the shift in what Google's actually prioritizing, right? It's no longer about keywords and H1 tags or meta descriptions. The new model evaluates clarity, structure, and helpfulness. So AI is judging content more like a human. They're asking, did this actually answer the question rather than did it use the right words? And this is where structure becomes your superpower. AI isn't just, scanning for keywords, it's analyzing how your content is organized. You'll see a lot of helpful advice about organizing, things like clear headings, bullet points, FAQ sections, schema markup. All of that improves your chances of being pulled into AI overviews. So think of it this way. If your content feels like a well-outlined answer to a real question, you're more likely to get surfaced. So who, what, when, why, I don't think I'm missing any of those these keyword stuffing, every time. And then, Google's accelerating, how creative gets built. Go to the next slide. And you'll see Imagine 4 and VO3 are a big part of that. These tools, they can generate brand consistent images, campaign, ready variations and short form videos, all from a single prompt. I mean, while they're still rolling out, and you could see AI content is scary, but and brands are starting to adapt. I think the direction is clear. AI is going to be a core part of how we produce ads and assets. So we're using it already to help brands create seasonal or localized images instantly. Tools like Veo will eventually do the same for video. Think product explainers, demo, social content, all enhanced by AI. It's really, for me and for us, it's about scale, speed, and consistency. But one thing to be, real about is, and I go back to this all the time, someone said this to me and it kind of stuck, AI can create Shrek 2, 3, and 4, but not Shrek. So that original spark still comes from us, right? AI really helps produce more of it faster. And what you'll see on this slide is I think the Google tools are really leading the charge. I think they were laggards before, whether it was Sora or anyone that was first to market, but the ones that are coming out from Google are just phenomenal right now.
Thanks, Ronnie. Some really great stuff there. I mean, I guess so far we've talked about what's changing and the impact that it's having on search marketers, and then we just talked about where Google has communicated that things will be going next. So I want to kind of take you guys through what marketers need to do to stay ahead of this curve, and also what we're doing for our clients to help them adapt to the changing reality. So the old search model was really straightforward. Neil talked about this already. Rank, click, convert. Success meant getting someone from the search engine's result page to your site and then guiding them through a funnel. But that funnel doesn't look quite the same anymore. So today we're entering a bit of a new model that may start with visibility inside of the AI responses, potentially followed by interactions. And in many cases, the conversion may be happening without ever hitting your site. So what can that next action look like? It might be a visit. It might be an add to cart inside of Google Shopping. It could be a reservation inside of a chat interface, or even a direct answer from your brand inside of an AI summary. So we need to stop thinking in terms of just traffic, and we need to start planning for outcomes across the ecosystem, because users are converting in more places than ever before. It's not really about throwing out what has worked in the past, but it's about updating how we define success in an AI first world. A critical first step, and this is something our team is so focused on, is to understand how measurement is evolving. So for years, we've relied on these traditional metrics, things like organic traffic, keyword rankings, click-through rate, bounce rate, page authority. These made sense when clicks were the goal and the website was the primary or only destination. While these metrics aren't going anywhere, we still track them, we still optimize towards them for our clients. The landscape is changing. So AI search, summaries, zero-click results, it means visibility is often happening off-site, and those metrics don't capture that anymore. So we are now tracking things like AI visibility score, which is, are we showing up in AI generated answers, citation frequency, how often are trusted sources referencing us, entity mention velocity, how fast and widely are we being talked about, zero click value, what's the brand impact when users don't click, cross-platform presence, are we visible across search, social, AI, beyond. The key takeaway here is it's time to rethink what success looks like and expand how we measure visibility and influence. It's not just about traffic anymore. And then it wouldn't be an NPD webinar if we didn't get detailed. Since we've defined like the things we think we need to be measuring in the AI era, we really wanted to go into, okay, but how do we actually measure these things? So AI visibility score, I'm not going to spend the time going through all of the formulas, because this will be exist as a takeaway, and I'm sure there'll be an opportunity to download the presentation. But this is all about, AI visibility score, measure how often your brand appears in AI responses, citation frequency, tracking how often your brand is measured across ChatGPT, Perplexity, Cloud, and others, entity mention velocity, measuring how fast your mentions are growing month over month, et cetera, et cetera. So on the right, we've also listed some tools, some coming soon, like Uber Suggests AI module, and others that are available now, like Brand24 and BrightEdge. Sometimes when we're in a world where metrics are changing and the landscape is evolving, there is still some manual testing and custom scripts that have to be developed or utilized. So key point really is this is doable today. A lot of people will shy away from it and say we can't measure it, so let's not focus on it. It is doable today, and it's important visibility that your internal analytics might not be tracking right now. So we talked about the importance of measurement, but to actually show up in AI results and influence outcomes, we need more than just keywords and backlinks. So what we need is, we call it the visibility stack. So a layered system that moves users from awareness to action. So it starts with discoverability. Can AI even find and understand your content? So that depends on a lot of things that we're going to go through. Next up is engagement. So is AI prioritizing content that performs well? Then we move to conversion. So, do you have all the elements to drive an actual action after someone is interacting with your content? And then finally, feedback loop. So, is Google noticing signals like click behavior, dwell time, user testing that are indicative of people having a good experience with your content? Bottom line, visibility is only as strong as the weakest part of your stack. So brands that are investing across all four layers are the ones that will win, and be able to convert it into value. So once you are getting visibility into AI experience, the next challenge is, what happens next, where this is where a major shift is underway. So in the past, we've obsessed over click-through rates and how many users are clicking, and AI overviews and zero-click journeys are really flipping the script. We've talked about this a lot. So Google has said that AI overviews visits are typically more qualified. So users are coming from these surfaces that tend to be deeper in their journey. They're not browsing, they're deciding. So that's why the engagement metrics are so important to be tracking. So scroll depth, time on page, video views, interactive behavior, these matter more than just pure traffic volume. So as marketers, we need to optimize towards content for interaction and not just acquisition. And then one for the, just on the next slide. And then one that's super important for the product marketers out there. So Ronnie talked about a lot of the changes that Google is pushing. They're very product focused, right? Virtual try-ons, a lot of changes. So for product marketers, your product feed isn't just for SEO or shopping ads anymore. It's really the backbone of your AI visibility. Google's AI and others, they rely on structured feeds, readability, to power shopping, virtual try-ons, and voice agents. So that's going to be a critical next step. But here's the catch. If your feed is bad, if you have no structured feed, you will get no visibility across AI. This isn't a gray area where you'll get some. There's going to be winners and losers. And if you're not up to date on your feed, you will likely be one of the losers. So today, think of your feed as your growth engine. It determines whether your product shows up, gets recommended, gets purchased, not just in search, but across like any AI-driven ecosystem. So the question isn't just like, are your feeds accurate? Think of it as more like, are they actually being optimized for discovery? One thing we've really noticed is that when it comes down to it, you know, clean feeds are what wins. So we analyzed over 4 million queries. We talked about this a little bit earlier. AI overviews are far more likely to trigger on longer, more specific searches. But the real key here is that inclusion often comes down to the quality of your feed. So when those searches get more complex, the qualities within your feed are the things that become more important to actually show up, because Google needs to know that those complex qualifiers to the search are actually present within your product. So that means getting the basics right, of course, titles, descriptions, schema, inventory, pricing, but also consider those additional metrics too. They're very, very important. You'd be surprised how many advertisers are still struggling with poor feed hygiene. So incomplete attributes, mismatched prices, missing markup. These are the things that are killing visibility in AI-driven results right now. So if you want your products to have a chance to show up in that 77% slice to the right, make sure to start with your feed. So we keep talking about ranking for AI and ranking for AI and visibility for AI. It's super important we don't lose sight of who we're actually creating content for, which is people. So that's really the core message here. Your content still needs to solve real problems. It needs to answer real questions and connect with your audience in a clear human way. That means starting with audience first messaging. What are they trying to do? What language do they use? What outcome are they seeking? But then once the content works for people, you need to think of packaging it for AI. So that means your structured formatting, your clear headlines, your strong H2s. Neil's post here, I think, is super relevant. Google doesn't care if your content is brilliant; it cares if it's readable, and AI tends to work the same way. So the new rule: create for people, package for AI. It's not one or the other; it's both. And then once your content is structured and discoverable, the next step is how do you optimize that content? Instead of guessing what headline will work, what messaging will land, what creative will convert, start testing. This is your opportunity to be testing. The insight here is simple: launch, learn, optimize. According to our research, AI adoption is highest with 61% of marketers already using it to create blog content, and 44% are using it to support image creation. There's still significant opportunities to adopt AI itself to test within things like video, presentations, etc. But it's not all about just producing initial pieces of content. It's actually the ability to experiment within your content production at scale. So using Gemini or even other LLMs to test headlines, creative angles, positioning statements, even the emotional tone of your copy is things that you can adjust on the fly very easily. AI will help you explore those variations at scale so you can learn faster and improve performance without adding more hours. The ideal setup, we've talked about this a few times, isn't AI instead of people. It's really humans powering AI to get a lot more productivity and a lot more out of it. So making sure that you're incorporating testing into your workflow now is really the time to be doing that. And we're not throwing out everything we know. We're just adapting it. So that starts with data-backed optimization. So those AI visibility audits, we do these for clients, usually typically right off the bat, and it gains insight into guide the types of changes that we'll need to make to help you get ranking. Next, we tend to focus on balancing user centricity with the AI alignment. So like great content should connect with humans and make sense for the machines. That's super critical. Then we can embrace kind of continuous adaptation. So we know AI search is evolving fast, and so is our strategy. So whether it's new formats, new signals, new tools, we have to work in a flexible capacity. So we're not really in the world anymore of having a fixed scope of work for a year. We have to build flexibility into the way that we work, because otherwise, in a year's time, we'll be talking about why we didn't catch this new change that happened. So super, super important. And then finally, it's important to invest in building trust with LLMs. So that means, the structured data that we talked about, but also even PR that reinforces your brand authority, because your reputation is now part of the algorithms that determine if you show up. So it's never been about chasing trends. It's always about evolving with intent, and helping you as a brand show up where it matters most.
And one thing to double click on that Ryan talked about, and this is where a lot of internal marketing teams and agencies still have it wrong. Typically, companies, the way their marketing organizations are set is, here's our goals for the year. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to try to achieve the goals. They adapt a little bit, but it's usually they set a lot of things in stone quarter by quarter, and then they go from there. And a lot of marketing agencies, when they work with a client, here's our proposal, here's the deliverables you're going to get, and this is what we're going to do over the next 12 months. Now, what we believe is a correct approach is, yes, you can outline a lot of those elements, but there needs to be flexibility. And if you don't have flexibility, you will not win. We showed you in the previous slides how many algorithm changes are happening on an annual basis when you just look at Google alone. Over 5,000, and that was 2024. And as Ronnie mentioned with AI overviews, you're seeing that number increase more and more drastically and faster. So if you're not willing to adapt and be flexible, you won't win. You're just going to be stuck with, hey, this is what I signed. This is what I'm looking for. This is what my team signed up for internally. This is what we need to achieve. Well, if you're not adapting, you may be spending a lot of time and money on stuff that's no longer relevant. So just keep that in mind when you're doing marketing and planning for your own organization. Adaptability is a key in today's world. Things just change too fast. And it's not just on search, it's also on social. Look at social shopping. Look at the changes they're making to YouTube, right? You weren't seeing these drastic changes in social media, call it a few years ago. Now you search on social media and they have AI powered results. That didn't really exist years ago, and people didn't really use social media to search. Now, according to Google, or one of their VPs, when the younger generation's looking for a place to eat or a place to go, they're going on TikTok and Instagram before they even turn to Google. You need to be able to adapt fast. And if your team moves at a snail speed, I hate to say this, you got the wrong team then.
It's a good lead in, Neil, to what determines the winners and losers, because we really are at a turning point in search, and the gap between those who are adapting and changing fast and those standing still is growing super fast. So the reality is this: most brands actually haven't adapted to AI search very well, and it's starting to show. So those who have are already pulling ahead. We're seeing it in rankings, reach, results, and it's not a slow burn. It's widening month by month. So think of it this way: if your content or your feed haven't changed in the last 3 months, you're likely already behind. AI search isn't waiting. The algorithm updates are ramping up and happening faster and faster. So your competitors aren't going to wait for you either. So super important. And then finally, I mean, just for those actively investing in paid ads, Ronnie touched a little bit about some of the innovations coming on the Google side. Paid media has leveraged AI for things like bid management and audience expansions for a long time. But one of the most underutilized tools right now, that's something we're finding a lot of success with, is really the predictive tools within Google Ads. So we're no longer just reporting on what's happened in the past, but now we're actively forecasting what's likely to work next. So you can use it to model like critical decisions for your business, things like scenario planning, resource planning, and gaining competitive edge all in real time. The key takeaway here really is paid media teams aren't just optimizing campaigns anymore. We're able to use AI to simulate decisions before you spend a dollar. So it's flipped on its head a little bit, and it's not perfect, but it's been relatively successful. So we're encouraged by it.
And one quick stat is, I've looked up how much money is being wasted on paid ads, digital specifically, over the years. And on an annual basis, depending on the source, the numbers vary a lot, but like some say it's around 60 billion, some say it's over 100 billion. Either way, the number annually is large, whether it's 60 or 100. Tools like this aren't going to fully solve it where you're no longer wasting 60 billion or 100 billion, but hey, even if they can cut down 5, 10, 15% and they improve over time and then it becomes 20% savings, etc., that's a lot of money that was being wasted before. So it's worth checking out these tools even if they're not perfect, because some savings is better than none.
Agree. I'll add one point, which is um, predictive tools use historical data to make their predictions. So if you haven't been running paid media yet, this won't be like a miracle solution for you. You likely do have to begin with testing the waters to get that type of data that'll allow you to forecast in the future. So that's a good like segue from Neil's point of like you won't be able to eliminate all wastage, but it's encouraging.
So now let's talk about reset or die. Look, AI won't wait for you. The traffic is growing faster and faster to people using these AI solutions like ChatGPT, one of the fastest solutions to a billion users. I think the only other platform that may have beat it was Threads. But as you all know, I'm not trying to diss Threads. No one really uses it kind of anymore. The usage is quote unquote inflated, and so are the signups. But ChatGPT has much more usage than Threads. And referral data is disappearing, but intent isn't. Yes, honey, you can have yogurt. And then every week, if you don't take action, it just widens the gap from the competition beating you. And this isn't like traditional search where, hey, you make changes in a few months, you wait, and then you go from there. AI is moving really fast and speed matters. What we're seeing is the brands that are increasing velocity are sticking, and they're sticking around longer, and it's harder to displace them. Doesn't mean you can't displace them, but time is of essence and you want to start pushing now than later on. Next slide, All right. So the old playbook is done, right? When you look at the old rules of SEO and paid media, they're crumbling, even though a lot of the same SEO factors that worked before help with AI. So SEO isn't quote unquote dead, but it's more so the old rules are dead. When you look at manual bid management and campaign optimization, they're being automated out of existence. And the big thing here, if you're going to look at, this slide, it's actually two things. One, you used to build your brand for trust with the users. Now you need to build up your brand because you need to not only build up trust with users, but the AI system so that way they recommend you as well. And we're seeing a lot of factors like reviews come into place, and that helps and influences how often they're recommending a company. Reviews for both B2B and B2C, doesn't matter if you're services or you're selling a product. And things like attribution models, they are breaking. Data analytics is more important than ever. That's why we have an internal data and analytics team. But with data and analytics, you got to actually look at, all right, what is actually causing not just revenue from a direct, last touch point of view, but also where people first finding it out about you. What is actually causing conversions? How are you doing attribution for all the channels? Are you doing things like MMM, right? I think all these things are not only important, but because of technology, you can do them much more affordably these days than you were in the past. Like you look at MMM, it used to only be available for large corporations with money. Now we're able to do it at NPD for companies that are smaller and mid-sized because of the cost and the technology that's made it achievable for corporations of all sizes to use this kind of stuff. So if you need help building your new strategy, we would love to work together. We do everything from creatives, right? We've done ads for B2B, B2C. We've even done ads with celebrities like Jennifer Lopez in some of our campaigns for some of our clients. And some of, when it comes to creatives, we've even done full-blown creatives with companies built purely through AI, right? And we storyboarded and, had humans in the loop because it just makes it that much better. We can help with things like AI search optimization, even running ads, data analytics, email, CRO, content marketing. The list goes on and on. And if you want to work with us, you can scan the QR code. It'll take you to the NP Digital website, fill out your information, and then go from there. Or if you don't have your phone available, you can just go to npdigital.com and fill out your information. And yeah, like I said, we would love to work with you. And before we get into Q&A, we have an upcoming webinar on where did my traffic go, winning in the age of AI overviews. I actually wanted to call it Dude, Where's My Traffic? Winning in the age of AI overviews.
How many people are
Uh,
old enough to get that?
I have no idea, but my title wasn't selected, but I thought it would have been a funny title. But yeah, scan that. And this one is specifically going to talk about how you can generate traffic specifically from AI overviews organically and paid. All right, so let's dive into some questions. Oh, and on that webinar, we'll get more into the nitty gritty of the tactics that you need to implement for AI overviews.
It was, dude, where's my car? Right? I got that one.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to get that. Such great information, man. It's crazy how quickly things are changing. Certainly when it comes to organic and SEO. Lots of great questions. And Ronnie, let's start with the measurement one. A question from a viewer is, wow, this is great, but how do we even begin to measure all of this stuff? Because that's one of the big things that seems to be changing, right? Is like, how do we show the value of all the marketing efforts that we're doing? So any insights there would be great, because that came up a couple of times.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, look, some of the things that we're giving are like, high end things or future looking things that aren't even available, right? We're trying to be thinking about things like formulas for AI visibility score or citation frequency, which Ryan showed, these topic authority coverage. So the first thing I would say is definitely look, I mean, tools like SEMrush and Google Search Console are starting to show AI overview. So you can get some of those things, where you can look at the appearances in AI over total relevant queries and multiply it by 100. So if you appear 15 out of 50 relevant ChatGPT queries, your score is 30%, right? You can do those things right now. Some of the other ones that we put in there, they're pretty advanced, and you'll need tools to track those new KPIs and experiment. So you can look at things that, and it's a mix between enterprise and free. So Bright Edge, is an AI overview tracking, visibility scoring. SERP, Precon has cross-platform AI monitoring. There's Brand 24, which will look at those entity mentioned tracking. You have custom scripts that you'll need to be, API based for citation tracking that you'll need to build. So manual testing for sure. There's a lot. There's no one tool for some of these, formulas that we're mentioning that you should be looking for. You're going to have to use a blend of tools right now.
Awesome. And Neil, there were a couple questions about any enhancements or updates to Uber Suggest for some of this stuff. Any updates that you want to give the crew?
Yeah, so my guess is within 30 days, you're going to see a lot of AI stuff roll out. Within 90 days, you're going to see a ton more roll out. So I was just playing with the preview 2 days ago when I was in New York for YouTube's conference for a lot of their big advertisers, and I was speaking there, but I was going over the demo with my team. So to give you idea, now with UberSys, which is what we're going to end up rolling out, you can put in a keyword, your URL, and then if you put in your brand name as well for your URL, we'll suggest it. We'll suggest what industry you're in, and then you can change that if you want. And then when you click search, it's going to not only give you all the traditional keyword research that you're used to, but it'll start showcasing prompts on platforms like ChatGPT, which is the main one we're going to start with, and then we'll add the rest in. And you'll be able to see more prompt ideas to go after. And then you'll see who's mentioned, you versus your competition, and how often you're mentioned, and it'll rank you. And then the next version after that will start including things like intent. What is the intent of those prompts? The version after starts including sentiment. Are you viewed positively versus negatively? And you'll be able to use a lot of that stuff for free. Though, of course, will be paid plans, but you'll be able to do a lot for free. And then with Answer the Public, similar, you're going to start getting a lot of the AI data when you're doing keyword research that we're going to be pulling from all prompts. The default Answer the Public homepage, which we're hoping to roll out within a few months, is going to be you type in a keyword. You may have to give us a little bit more data, but instead of just showcasing on the main screen Google data from like Google Suggest and people also ask, it'll showcase data from AI search, traditional search, social media, shopping, and then you can dive in. So then you no longer have to select which platform you want to search. It'll just pull it all together and then give you different types of reports.
Amazing. Can't wait for all of that. Ronnie, another one for you while we have you. So there were a couple of, I think it was you that spoke to, or maybe it was Ryan, I'm not sure. Um, Keywords are still a thing, right? Like we do keyword research. It's just that the intent behind that query is really the bigger picture. So the
Yeah.
question that I saw over and over again is like, so wait a minute, like do we not do keyword research anymore? Like any thoughts or just guidance or insights into that?
Yeah, so we spoke a lot about moving away from keywords, right? I still think keyword research is important, but because we're talking about the amount of traffic that's coming from LLMs is still small. It will grow. I think the old way was pick a keyword, build content around it, and today, especially with those AI overviews, it's more about like topic authority and depth. So instead of just doing keyword research, you could also be asking, what are all the subtopics and questions people care about within this theme? And then you can build content that goes deep and connects those dots. So like look at the people all also ask box, look at Reddit threads, look at what AI tools summarize when you search a term, and that's your signal. You're not really trying to rank for one phrase anymore. You're really trying to become the best answer on the topic across the board.
Awesome. I figured that would be your response there. Here's another one, and maybe this one could go to Ryan. Um, can I train these LLMs without making the content that I'm sort of prompting and using publicly available? Like, I know the answer to this. If you've got a premium subscription, like it sort of stays within, the subscription walls. But any insights into that? Because I think people are worried about my prompts now training the LLMs that are available to the entire public, and that's just sort of weird and creepy. Any thoughts there?
It's a big question because you're right. You can create like walled off ecosystems where your data is meant to be private, your premium subscription, like those do exist. But I do know that like a lot of organizations have been hesitant to allow their data to be uploaded to the platforms themselves for this exact reason, because it is still a black box that they're working from. So it's a really good question. I think the technical answer is there are ways to do it, but a lot of the major organizations out there have are still concerned with those methods and have basically limited the amount of data that they push to the LLMs.
Yep. Here's another one. Maybe this is a good one for Neil, actually. With all this catering to personal preferences, I wonder if this is going to make discovery of new products and concepts more difficult for users. Like, if everything is just so personalized to, previous search queries and everything else that's being collected, like, does that not just limit new product discovery because we're sort of like being shown, sort of like our social feeds, right? Like, if you're on one side or the other, like, that's all you see. Like, any general thoughts there?
No, it's not gonna reduce product discovery. If you actually look at the data, product discovery is increasing at a rapid rate, but you have to look at it from what platforms. People are discovering products more so from social media these days, like brand new products that they never thought about, versus Google. And it's shifting in that direction because the way Google works is you type in a prompt or a query, and then you get results based on that. It could be a new product that you're interested or whatnot. But when you look at social media, and if you think about the experience, you're on your phone, you're scrolling, it randomly shows you um, it randomly shows you products over time that you may be interested when you didn't type in anything, just based on all the data they have on you. And we're seeing a shift in which more product discovery is happening through things like social networks. And I believe the stat was it's like around 7 trillion ish, 6 to 7 trillion in social shopping should happen by 2030 per year.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. Time for one more. And I don't know if this is a loaded question or not, but it's a good one. If zero-click searches continue to increase, does that not eventually tank Google's ad revenue? Like, just general, we know that there's going to be stuff coming, that's in a paid format to AI mode and some of these other platforms. But any thoughts on that just in general? Like, what's this going to do to Google ad revenue? I mean,
poor Google's
SEO has always been free, right?
Yeah. It is a loaded question. So I do think Google's taken some steps to already combat this. So one of their big announcements was the AI overviews will be ad enabled shortly, right? So depending on your campaign settings, if you have broad match keywords, if you're running AI max or performance max campaigns, you'll be eligible to show in those results. I think the bigger assumption here is that Google will always be a CPC based medium. And there is always, like, search has always been CPC based, but most other tactics are used to a CPM environment, right? DV360 is CPM bought. So I don't think it's out of the question that a lot of these new buyable placements, so things like people also ask and the AI overviews, they may pivot to a CPM based buy instead of a CPC based buy.
And one quick thing to look at is Google's click-through rates have been declining to organic for a while, but their number of users has been increasing from people searching multiple times. And if you go back in time, you used to search for things like Los Angeles weather. Now it just shows you the weather, and you no longer have to click over to a site. You add 2 + 2, it tells you what the answer is 4, versus you having to go to a website. Same with if you ask for a currency exchange, it'll just tell you the answer there or a stock price. So there's been less click-throughs over time. And if you look at Google's earnings, it's public. Just type in the stock symbol GOOG and then put stock after that. And then you can click more info if you're on Google, and then you can go scroll down and see their revenue. Their ad revenue over time has been increasing. So even with lower click-through rates, they've tested and figured out ways to monetize, and I would bet that they'll continually test and figure out ways to keep making money.
Well, we know they're pretty good at making money. So I think that's it for us. We're 1 minute over, but I think we got through most of the questions. So thanks all.
Take care, everyone. If you want to work with us, go to npdigital.com. And we're global, so any region.